So, new project. Guitar project. Would you believe that? The idea is to change pickups on Gibson Les Paul Studio. So this is the guitar I have since more than 10 years. I love it, but I noticed playing on different instruments that the sound is a little bit different from what I would like it to be. So I decided to try different pickups. This is a very long video, so the goal of the video is to show you the whole project, what I did from the beginning, what I ordered, how I installed things, how I soldered things together, and how it sounds, obviously. However, a disclaimer about how it sounds. I did record a lot of noodling and comments in between, so this is what you're gonna see. I think this is the best way to kind of represent how it feels in the room. The idea is I'm just trying to show my emotions when I played different sets of pickups, and just in the moment I'm trying to record what I feel, what I think about these pickups. So if you want to get scientific, I prepared something for you in the description below. There you can find a Reaper project with the WAV files where I did try to play the same thing using XFX as my DI interface, and it does sound very similar. So go ahead and download that and try it. So I hope you enjoyed, and without further ado, let's jump right in. This is my old trusty Gibson Les Paul Studio, my second guitar ever, electric guitar. And what I would like to try is to replace both pickups. So the pickups here I assume are Burstbuckers from Gibson, and they are pretty good. What I don't like about them is that they are not very dynamic, and they are pretty flat and boring, and a little too crispy to my ears. I like Les Pauls to be really creamy and vintagey, so I'm gonna try these three sets of pickups. This is Lollar Imperial low wind chrome set. So these are chrome, so I would like to have chrome. These are Lollar Imperial Standard. So these are a little hotter, but still kind of vintage. And these are Gibson Custombuckers. Nickel. I don't know how nickel will look with these chrome hardware, but let's try. I'll try all of them. And I also had to buy these little Molex adapters so that I can actually plug them into the PCB on this guitar. Basically the idea, I mount these onto the pickups, so I ordered a couple of them so that I can mount all of them, and then it will be plug and play without soldering, basically. So this is the cavity with the PCB. This is original Gibson Les Paul Studio. So to verify that what I have ordered is the right thing, I just disconnect this. I have this Molex connector, and I just connect it there, and that works. So that confirms that these are correct. These are these connectors, and they require these little things which go inside them. So if you look at one of them, it's really tiny, so I have to zoom in. So it's like you have to crimp it, basically. Crimp the wire inside of this thing. And these crimpers are not really available, so I'll do this with pliers. And probably also I'll solder it. Yep, let's see how it goes. So on the pickup side it's pretty simple. This is Lollar Bridge 24. Usually they come with 4-wire setup, and then I'll connect red and white, solder them together. These are already connected out of the box, so I'll just solder them together and isolate. This is the signal wire, the black one, and the green and the braid wire will also be connected together, soldered together, and this is one lead and this is the other one. So let's see how these two will actually fit into one of these tiny
things. That's it.
And this is the result with the 4-wire setup. So the black wire is in and it's also soldered in so that it can hold well. And both of the green and braid are soldered together and put in and soldered in as well. And the red and white wires are also soldered together and will be isolated. So one thing you can also see is that the green and braid wire are way too thick. So this is what I realized here at this point when trying to put them in. What I did later to avoid it was to strip out and cut out half or even more of the braid wires. We don't need all of them, so I left a little thinner braid wire connected together with the green, and then they fit together well, and they fit inside of the Molex adapter well. So another lesson learned is when it doesn't fit well, don't start with the simpler, the easier wire here as I do, and I do instant regret after that because I can't pull it out anymore and I can't put the other wire anymore. So beware. First insert the wire which you think you'll have more problems with. So this was the set of Lollar pickups, and now we're looking at Gibson pickups. So the advantage of those is that they have just 2 wires. This is what we need, so we don't need the split coil stuff. And it's a little easier to work with. So here, let's dive a little deeper into how I actually made them fit into the Molex connectors. So the braid wire here is this outer shell. So when you try to pull it out with your fingers, it doesn't really work really well. You need something sharper because these are intertwined quite heavily. And it will take me a second to get to the idea, but I'll get the pair of tweezers. And finally we're there. So now we're setting these single little wires free. And the idea is that we need to form a wire which will actually be put into the Molex connector. So as I said in the previous snippet, the idea here is to remove the excessive amount of wire. So here I'm just trimming some extra little wires on the sides, just so that I'm left with a thinner braid wire which I can put into the Molex adapter. So here you have to be careful to not remove too much. And also with all of these little single wires, so that they don't end up somewhere in the pickup or somewhere. So I put them all aside. Yeah, and once I'm satisfied with the amount, I'm also going to check. So I'm just going to wrap them all together. And I'm going to check if they fit into the thing. So then the next step is to solder them together first, so that they don't unwind while I'm putting them and trimming them into this little adapter. So first I thought, yeah, the end of this thing is not very clean, so I decided to trim it first with it and then solder them, so the end is clean. Trying to get the perfect form here. And yeah, heating up the wire first, then getting some solder, and then when it flows, you can see how it nicely flows all over the wire. So here I'm also trying to solder all these loose ends together so that they are not undoing themselves. Yeah, and then I'm seeing how I would fit it into this little adapter. So this piece will go into the Molex connector. So I don't even know how to call these things, adapter, connector. So this little metal part. So here is a funny story. So this pair of pliers costs like €4, which I'm using here to kind of crimp this thing together. And I did find the official crimper for these Molex things, and it costs around about €500, which is kind of ridiculous, so I didn't order that. I was just thinking, okay, if it doesn't tweeze very well, I can solder them together and then it's gonna hold well. And the only challenge is then to put them in, because they're not of the perfect shape, let's say. And that's exactly what I'm doing, so I'm just using the pliers here to twist them and to like squeeze the parts together. They kind of hold already in place, but you can see that I can still rotate this thing around, and to make it hold really well, I just put a little bit of solder. I'm trying to heat up the wire as well and put it in between, so that the wire is connected to this thing. Yeah, trying not to be excessive there. So checking the results. So now the next step is the second part. So here I'm trying to measure pretty much exactly how long the second wire has to be, and I'm trimming that. Once the wire is trimmed to the correct length, I'm trying to get to the actual wire inside, so stripping out some isolation. And as before, we just solder these little wires together. So it's also not a single wire, there are multiple wires. You can see here that I've put a little too much solder. We'll see the effect of that in a minute. So now I'm trying to level the both ends and attach the second thingy. And I kind of struggle, and I noticed that the wire I just soldered is a little too thick. So what I do is I remove the excessive solder. Just heat it up and remove it like that. It doesn't have to be more than this, just a little bit. So this bit is probably the most time consuming, because you're trying to be very precise so that the attaching to the Molex adapters is easy and rigid. So again, trying to rotate them in the same direction, because it's also important which way these metal things are rotated before they are inserted. There has to be a specific way. And soldering in again, just a little bit of solder. If you put too much, it's not gonna fit. So now both wires are there, so I'm trying to attach both at the same time. They go in pretty well and then kind of get stuck, so I'm thinking, okay, they're probably in. So what I'm trying is, I'm pulling on them now. And boom, they're out. So these things have little wings which actually snap in when you push them through. And maybe you could even hear some clicking. I never heard that, probably because of my messy crimping work. You can push them in using some tweezers or maybe a flat small screwdriver, something like that. Just test it so that it doesn't go out anymore, and this is the result. And looking at the top, the signal wire is on the left, the braid wire is on the right. If in doubt, just compare to your existing pickups. And one last thing, don't forget to look at the front of the connector. You should be seeing the ends of these metal parts pretty close to the end. And here is before and after. So these are the original pickups, Burstbucker Pros. It's hard to read the labels, but I believe it's Rye Pro and Lead Pro. These are the original pickups here. And this is the bridge one. It's quite hot and quite pleasing on the ear. Not too many highs. In general, it's a good pickup. This is the neck. And this is more or less clean. So on overdriven channel it's very readable. It's pretty cool. And both are like it's pretty cool. So now we're getting to swapping out the pickups. The process is relatively unimpressive, so I just 10x'd it. Please note here I'm already testing the second set, so the one I'm getting out is low wound Lollars, and the ones which I'm getting in are Imperials. But imagine it was the very first one, it doesn't really matter, so the process is identical. So you release tension from the strings and you unscrew the covers for the pickups, put them out. So you don't have to remove the strings for that, unless you're afraid to scratch your pickup. So these ones are already protected, so I didn't care. And once you put them in, remember also which cover was where, because that's important. They are different, and the ones on the bridge is higher, and the closer to the bridge you get, the higher it gets. So it's also the rotation of this cover is important, so take care of that. And also remember where your pickup poles are looking. So the neck pickup poles are closer to the neck, the bridge pickup poles are closer to the bridge. So once you do that, you can remove the pickups, put in the new ones, and connect them. As simple as that. Then you just bring strings back to tension, so I didn't even bother covering the hole again, and you can test. Exciting! So these are Lollar Imperial low wind. So these are like for hollow body guitars. This is definitely not a hollow body, but it should be a massive difference in tone, because the other ones were super hot and these are super low output. Same amp settings. So this is clean.
not sure what I'm hearing. I'm hearing less aggressive tone for sure. So this is like, even if you dig in, doesn't sound harsh, so it's more smooth, less highs. Yeah, let's listen to the overdriven tones. Nice. It's really more mids, more of this fat, nice low mid tone. What I usually describe as like creamy. What about boost? This is the light I can hear. It's still good for metal. Maybe I have to adjust gain a little bit. Give it a little more gain, let's see. I think I have to tune again. They sound a little bit like Seymour Duncan's. Well, this kind of baked in wah sound, you know? Sounds expensive. I don't know. It's just the other one is flat. This is definitely more dynamic. So. And definitely less harsh than the Burstbuckers. Yeah, so what I would like to say is maybe that it does still sound like this guitar. Even though the pickups are drastically different, it still sounds like this guitar. Somehow the DNA is still there. But it definitely sounds more vintagey. That's exactly what I wanted. Yeah, so for the fans of PRS, I must say they would definitely like the Burstbuckers more. Why? Because they're much more balanced. So these are not balanced, and I like not balanced pickups. I like when it's not boring, you know, when you have some emotions like too much bass or too much mids, somewhere something sticks out and you're like, oh, your attention goes there, and it's pretty cool. It's like somebody used to say, balanced mix is a boring mix. So something has to stick out, and it's pretty cool what these pickups are doing. I would definitely play around with the setup more, like higher, lower. But in general, like Lollar Imperial low wound, like. Okay, let's record some guitar. So these are Lollar Imperial Standards, as opposed to Lollar Imperial low wind. So these must be hotter and a little more smooth, so less highs. Definitely less highs. Creamy. This is the bridge and the neck. Almost like I rolled off the tone, but I didn't. If I roll off, very smooth. Yeah, pretty cool. A lot of bass here. Yeah, and a lot of boost. Yeah, cool pickups. Lollar Standard, really nice. These are the Gibson Custombuckers. clean. Immediately vintage. Well, I said clean. It's a lot of gain, right? It's in drop D. Pretty dark and a lot of bass. Distortion. Drop D. HB. It's not that loud, and it's already feedback. Not readable. Very noisy. These pickups are not for metal. I don't know. These sound like they have some kind of echo. Some annoying frequencies which I would like to EQ out because they're just feeding back. Like kind of this mic which always sounds like it's feeding back. I don't know. Cleans are cool. The rest is meh. So this time the original Burstbuckers into 5150 with this orange cap. So what I want to check for is how this works for metal in general. So Burstbuckers are really readable but pretty compressed and flat, so that's something I also don't quite like, and I'll show you why. So here's the original Burstbuckers. and so on. So it doesn't feed back at all, like only. So the noise gate, if we switch off the noise gate, still pretty clean, not too bad. But with the noise gate, it's amazing. Yeah, so these are the Burstbuckers. And for comparison, let's take a guitar with vintage Häussel feedbacks. Feedbacks. Pickups! The pickups, not feedbacks. I don't know how it comes across, but I feel much more feelings when playing this one. It's just, it has more roar to it, somehow it's more harmonics and just nice. Let's check without noise gate. Same. Afraid to break the string. Yeah, just sound massive, as it's a little more bass and a lot less compression, so I really feel the harder I dig, the more I get. More dynamics. And this is what I want to achieve with Lollars, but maybe just a little different sound. On 5150 at least. I'm not talking about the nice cleans kind of stuff. Testing Lollar pickups, Lollar Imperial Standard, not low wound, with 5150. not super readable. This is a mess. Maybe I would add some mids. Maybe that would help. Readability. A little less height. Both. Very usable middle position. I must say, it's definitely pleasing. I like how it sounds. I like how it plays. It's more dynamic. It's less compressed, less stereo. And I like that there are less annoying, harsh harmonics. So even on the Courage Les Paul with Häussel pickups, we'll compare that in a second, there are some harmonics which are a little too harsh. But here everything is super sweet. Courage Les Paul again. The other one I have with kind of vintage pickups. It's still more present. Really nice. I think I like this one a little more. Maybe it's not the pickups, right? So this is quite a different guitar. Different wood, flame maple top. And it has lack. And compare again to Lollar's. I really want to like them somehow. Oh, it's cool. It has, these has less bass. So let me compensate. And maybe these are less hot, so let me add some gain. I enjoy them. So let's try without noise gate. A little more susceptible to feedback, I would say, than Häussel's. I still like the other Les Paul better, but I think I'm convinced that Burstbuckers is something I don't really like, or I want to try something new. So these Lollar Imperials sound really cool. Especially I like the neck position. It doesn't sound that muffled anymore. That's pretty cool. these are pretty readable, so I noticed some mistakes now I didn't notice before when I was playing. Maybe it's because of the amp. But these totally work for metal. Even though it's like vintage pickup, PAF, totally works for metal. Really good. Nice. Do we have clean on this amp? Nice. It even has this vintage kind of compression on 5150. This is really cool. This is what I'm talking about. When I play Burstbuckers, it's like a piano. Pim, pim, pim. Very exact, very bright. And this is really clacky, really vintage. This is what I wanted. Okay, now we're talking. So this is clean channel. So really no highs at all. Still cool. I usually don't like clean channel of this amp, but this sounds kind of inspiring. Okay. This is why we're really here, right? So with the noise gate on, it works. But it really reacts, right? You can hear the chambering in this guitar. It becomes musical. So really, when I played Burstbuckers and I wanted to solo on this guitar, it didn't sound musical at all. It was really just notes like on piano, you know. I don't know how to explain. Piano is also musical, but it's just too clean. And this is really nicely dirty. Nice. Totally metal. So totally usable for metal. Like.
And there it was. So how did you like it? My conclusions from all of this project is Molex adapters are real and you can solder them together and do it DIY. Number one. Number two, the pickup differences are very hard to capture. I would say that all of these three pickups I have chosen are very similar to each other. When compared to the original Burstbuckers or Fishman Fluences or EMGs or stuff like that. These are all trying to be vintage puffs. From the three, I'd say Custombuckers are unpotted and clearly I'm playing with a lot of gain, so it's not for me. The Lollar Imperial Low Wind and Standard are very similar. I would say low wind for me was a little crispier and cleaner and more balanced, and standards were more creamy, more vintagey. So I like less balanced, and I really like what Lollar Imperial's standards do. So I kept them. They're now installed in this guitar. I also keep the Burstbucker Pros because I believe maybe one day I will be nostalgic and install them and feel exactly like the way I felt 12 years ago when I got the guitar. there it was. Leave me a comment. Tell me if you made it this far. Let me know if you liked it, what else you would like to see. If you like the format of the long video of my whole project, or you would rather just see some short description or article or something like that. Like and subscribe. That's what I forgot.